As you play Skyrim, you will gain skills by doing a multitude of various actions such as using weapons or magic, taking damage while wearing armour, sneaking. Hell, you even gain skill points for speech just by selling and talking to people. This makes it so the player feels like they are constantly being rewarded for just playing the game. But what if I didn't want to be rewarded? Today I decide to find out, can I beat Skyrim without increasing any of my skills? Now, rather than explain what I can't do because of these rules, simply because we would be here forever, as I explained every possible way that skills can increase in Skyrim, I am instead going to go over what actions I can do that won't increase any skills. There's no hand-to-hand skill tree, so I can fight with my bare hands. There is also no shout skill tree, so I'm allowed to use any kind of shout that I can get my hands on. Eating food and drinking potions does not increase the alchemy skill tree, so I can use them. However, I cannot eat ingredients, as that will increase the alchemy skill tree for some reason. I can use staffs, but I can't recharge them with soul gems, as that will increase the enchanting skill tree. And with all that said, let's get started. When it came to choosing a race to play as, I immediately went for Khajiit. My reasoning for this was that if one of my only ways to deal damage was with my fists, then I want the race that gets a bonus of 12 points of damage, thanks to the Khajiit Claw's ratio bonus. This makes it so my unarmed attacks will do 22 points of damage, which is actually pretty good, seeing how all the other races, except the Argonians, only get 4. It's also stronger than most weapons at the beginning of the game as well, so at least we are off to a promising start. I call my Khajiit Claw Strong, as it is true, and I'm incredibly unoriginal. Once we get our hands free, I tested out on the Imperials, and I'm so shocked by how much damage I'm doing that I double check to make sure the game is still set on normal. It is, and so I continue on throughout the tutorial without a hitch. Once we make it out of Helgen, I head to the same nearby mine as I did in the last video to test out how effective we will be at fighting actual enemies outside of the tutorial. It goes very well, and I take him out in a few swings, so with that I'm feeling pretty confident and leave to go to Riverwood. Also, not really important, but I think this might be the first time I've ever played Skyrim and not chosen one of the standing stones outside of Helgen. It's not important to the run, I just think it's kind of interesting. So, I arrive in Riverwood, and then I almost instantly realise that unless I want to buy potions, there isn't anything I can do here, as I can't sell anything as that would increase my speech skill, and I can't buy any weapons or armour, as I can't use them. So, with that in mind, I make my way for Bleak Falls Barrow to get the story started. On the way there, I demonstrate to some wolves that claws are much more effective than teeth, and then I come across some bandits in an old watchtower. Naturally, I go to greet their face with my fist, but it turns out they are much more powerful than I could have imagined. So powerful, in fact, that as soon as one of them so much as makes eye contact with me, my entire PC crashes. So, not wishing to tempt fate for a second time, I decide to ignore the all-powerful tower bandits and just try my luck on the ones outside of Bleak Falls instead. It goes miles better, as none of them seem capable of transcending the fourth wall and killing my computer. As soon as we get inside, we deliver what seems like one of the strongest right hooks ever as I throw this man away with ease. Further in, we go full exterminator as we make short work of some rats and the giant spider. He nearly got the best of us, however, which makes me pretty nervous for what's to come if a single giant frostbite spider can mess us up this badly. I both save and murder Arvel so that we can get the claw, but more importantly, some nice clothes so we don't have to keep running around in a potato sack. I fight my first Draugr and it only takes 3 punches to take one out, which isn't too bad, but it means things could get bad if we get swarmed. Thankfully there aren't too many Draugr thrown at you at once here, what with it being so early in the game and all. I do take this time, however, to practice spacing and evading while fighting the Draugr, as I'm only ever going to have a max health of 100, and I'll need to keep as much health as possible at all times. At the end of the dungeon, I just beat up the Draugr floor while he's getting out of his coffin, and by the time he gets out, he is basically already dead again. Next, I was off to Whiterun. What I forgot, however, was that the guards outside the city will not let you in without passing a speech check, which we obviously can't do, as that will give us a point in speech. I tried bribing the guards, but apparently that also counts as a speech option? So, I come up with an idea. I'm going to try and bypass this by loading back to a previous save before talking to the guard, and decide to let my claws do the talking this time. As soon as they go to attack back, I sheath my fists. I then tell them I'll go to jail. I then serve my sentence, and the game puts us inside of Whiterun, just outside of Dragon's Reach in fact. Boom! No speech required. From here, things proceed as normal as I go to fight the first dragon. The plan is to hide and wait until the guards do more than enough damage so that he'll land, and then I can run in and scratch his eyes out. This doesn't work! Second try, I play it safer and let the guards do 90% of the work. Then once he lands, rather than charging him directly like a fool, I stay to one side of him and pelt away for respectable damage until he dies. Just like the fight with the spider though, this has me pretty worried for the next 2 dragon fights, especially the first fight with Alduin. Oh, and I absorb the dragon's soul and learn to shout. I make a stop at Valtheim Towers, mainly looking to grab food and potions, but also because I enjoy punching bandits. Well, as it turns out, history repeats itself in a sense, as just like the last set of bandits that I attempted to fight at a tower, they absolutely destroy me. Only difference is this time, they don't kill my computer as well. But I'm nothing if not incredibly stubborn, so I throw myself at them 4 more times until finally I'm able to get rid of them. I actually ended up using more potions than what I could get, but more importantly I got a nice hat. Now, we're ready to save Skyrim. With that minor distraction out of the way, I continue to the Greybeards. But not before gaining the power to see through stones. Not gonna lie guys, this ability rocks. As per usual, nothing of interest happens at the top of High Hrothgar. I just go through a couple of scripted tests for the Greybeards and then go get the horn. I initially assumed the necromancers at the beginning of Ustengrav would give me trouble, but they all went down to 1 or 2 punches, so that was fine. I briefly considered taking one of their staffs, as it is technically okay for me to use, but it only did 8 damage, which was considerably worse than my fists, so I passed on it. I couldn't possibly think of a moment when it would come in useful anyway. I then proceeded to show the Draugr the almighty power of the Claw. I then learned the Become Ethereal shout, which will come in pretty handy seeing how our bones have strength comparable to that of paper mache. We grabbed the note at the end of the dungeon and now I was back to Riverwood. When I get there, Mirak's men are waiting for me, so I have to sidestep them as I'm terrified they'll obliterate me with their magic. I was scared for nothing though, as after I get the horn, I walk outside and give them the 5-knuckle shuffle. I take the horn back to the Greybeards right away for once, so I can get the complete unrelenting force shout. My plan is, if I shout at people till they fall over, I can beat them up while they're on the ground for some easy wins. Anyway, back to the plot, I head to Kyne's Grove to have the most one-sided dragon fight ever, as I start clawing away at him before he even has his skin back. And once he does get his skin back, it's not long before I take it, and now that skin is my skin. Now it was time for the Thalmor embassy. How wonderful. I make sure to only give Malborn the essentials before I leave. Delphine then gives me a snazzy new attire. This will go great with my hat. I make it inside the embassy. I steal some food for later and marvel at the Thalmor's exquisite invisible cheeses they have on display. I then grab my hat from the smuggled in goods and have my first encounter with the Thalmor agents. And, well, it goes about as well as you'd think. They bested me, a few times, and at least 2 of those times they killed me by stabbing the air next to me. That's some powerful magic right there. I finally get into the next building and end up using up most of my health potions, but at least there was no Storm Atronach this time. I even got the Chokeslam the Conjurer from last time as well for good measure. Satisfying. Even better though, I found a new outfit for Clawstrong. Gotta say though, it's a little messed up wearing a fur coat as a Khajiit. That would be like if I wore a coat made out of human skin. So, turns out my recording stopped right at the end of the embassy, which is annoying, but no matter. All that happened was that I got the documents and actually managed to save Malborn from the Thalmor this time. Although I think he may have been eaten by the frost troll on his way out, as I lost sight of both of them. But oh well. On the way to get Esbern, I had to pass another check to get into Riften, very similar to the one to get into Whiterun from earlier. But I'm not doing that, so just like the one from earlier, we solved this problem the same way. Except this time I paid off my bounty like a good citizen. Down in the Ratway tunnels, I clean house of all the crazy people, grab some gloves I desperately wish I could use, and find Esbern. It all goes surprisingly well. The Thalmor are easily dealt with, and we get out of the tunnels, and I fast travel back to Riverwood, only to notice that Esbern is nowhere to be seen. I have no idea how he got lost, but he did. And I spend the next 20 minutes fast travelling back and forward from Riften to Riverwood, and waiting, just hoping for something, but as the recording says, I eventually just give up and load back. But not before taking my anger out on Delphine and anyone else who just happened to walk past. Second time through the tunnels, everything goes the same, except not only do I have to walk Esbern back like a scared puppy, I also grab myself a new hat. Now we're cooking. Alright, back at Riverwood. I decide to leave the game running as Esbern and Delphine talk about what to do next while I go make myself a sandwich. By the time I come back, they are thankfully finished, so we can move on. Outside of Alduin's wall, I watch for a moment as the Forsworn try to fight a dragon. I briefly thought about waiting to see if they could kill it, just so I could get an easy free soul. But I'm impatient and immediately decided against it. Inside, I do some preschool level puzzles, spill some blood on the floor, And then I realised for the first time that you can tell Esbern you don't care about history and skip his exposition monologue. I did not know that, and I've finished this game about 7 times. Regardless, that's good to know for the next challenge. Rather than now go to the Greybeards, I decided to cut out the middleman and go find Septimus now and just get the scroll over and done with, as no one enjoys Blackreach. On my way to Alftand? I think that's how you say it. Anyway, I make sure to use the Become Ethereal shout, as I don't want to slip on the ice and break my neck again. As soon as I enter the ruin, I just start running. I don't even try to fight anything. It's a surprisingly sound strategy though. I also abuse the absolute hell out of the Ethereal shout by just skipping the entire downward spiral. But don't worry, in about 20 minutes I'm going to have a different type of downward spiral that I won't be able to avoid. I shockingly make it through without dying even once, which is a first for me, and I get the Scroll of Parthenax. After learning to scream so loud that even the clouds will leave you alone, I make my way to the top of the throat of the world and meet Parthenax. I then use the Elder Scroll, learn Dragonrend, and now that second downward spiral I just mentioned comes into play. As soon as we learn Dragonrend, we are forced into a fight with Alduin. Usually this fight is simple. He flies around, you use Dragonrend, he lands, and then you simply attack him until his health gets close to 0 and he retreats. Here's the problem. Alduin has a lot of health, and I mean like a lot, and I'm not doing a lot of damage at all. We also can't withstand more than 2 hits from him until he kills us. I tried just using Dragonrend to keep him grounded and then whittling down his health with punches, but it doesn't work. He will always just kill us almost instantly. Also, standing next to him in one spot for too long is a bad idea, as you will get hit by the fireballs that rain down from the sky. My next idea was to stunlock him with Dragonrend until he landed and just let Parthenax deal with him, because Parthenax is still essential at this point in the game, so he can't die. This seemed like it was working, as he got Alduin down to near half health, but then he just kind of stopped attacking Alduin. Turns out, if Parthenax takes over a certain amount of damage, he will just stop fighting back and just sit there, which makes things so much worse than initially, as now Alduin's entire focus is on me, and he predictably kills me. I was stuck here for nearly 2 hours. 2 hours before I found out a somewhat reliable strategy. I say somewhat, as I still died about 8 times trying to pull this off. What finally worked was that I would use Dragonrend on Alduin to bring him down, as he always landed in the same spot every single time, no matter what. I would then be standing waiting behind him when he landed and would get about 3 to 4 punches in before he would start up a tail slam, at which point the cooldown for Dragonrend would be over, so I could use the Become Ethereal shout and avoid damage. I would then use the invincibility of the Ethereal shout to run around the side of the cliff behind the wall that Parthenax would usually sit on, as it was mostly shielded from the sky fireballs and any of Alduin's shouts. I would then wait until the shout would cool down and use Dragonrend and just rinse and repeat until he was finally dealt with. I knew this fight would be difficult, as it's the only mandatory dragon fight without other human NPCs to help out, but I never, ever thought it would take me nearly 2 hours to beat. With that mentally and physically destroying experience out of the way, all that was left was the Peace Council. Council? Ooh. All that was left was the Peace Council, which was the same as usual, just a lot of nothing. Once at Skuldafn, I took no chances when outside and just used the Ethereal shout to get past all the dragons until I could get inside the temple. In the temple wasn't actually too bad. I nearly got overwhelmed by swarms of Draugr, but the standard Draugr were still only 3 shots with my fist, so it's not too bad. As soon as we got back outside the temple though, I do the exact same as before, and I just use the Ethereal shout and sprint straight for the portal to Sovngarde. Once through the mist, I drop a quick save, as soon as a monster, even when you're not doing a challenge run, so I'm expecting to be decimated. And I am. Trying to use my fists against him is just impossible, as I check and he does 99 damage to me with a single swing, and it leads to my death every time. Takes a few more attempts, but I eventually whittle him down with a few fire breath shouts. Takes a while due to the 30-second cooldown, but after what I just went through with Alduin, it's a cakewalk. Speaking of Alduin,
get ready for the next battle.
The difficulty difference between this fight and the last is night and day. I just Dragonrend him anytime he tries to take off, and then once he lands, I wail on him with my fists, but he mostly ignores me. Probably because the other 3 are doing substantially more damage than the fancy cat and the chef hat. In no time at all, we defeat him, and it's back to Skyrim. I take one last look at my skills, just to be sure, and with that I can say, yes, it is indeed possible to beat Skyrim without increasing a single skill. This was an interesting challenge to say the least. It starts off pretty easy thanks to the Khajiit's Claws race bonus, but as soon as dragons get introduced into the open world, the difficulty increases dramatically. The hardest part was easily the first Alduin fight, without a doubt. I don't think I ever expected to be stuck there for just that long, but if you can get past that, then you should have no problem with the rest of the game afterwards. At the end I had an in-game time of just under 5.5 hours, which isn't bad, but to be honest, with all the failed attempts on the first Alduin fight, as well as some other deaths, that time is probably over the 7-hour mark. With that being said, that's going to be the end of this challenge run video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel, as it really does help me out a lot, and it will let you know whenever I upload my next challenge run. My name's Nerbit, and I'll see you all later.